This is the Learnit Lounge, a podcast brought to you by Learnit. In each episode, I sit down with HR and L&D leaders to explore how learning programs have sparked real change, unlocked growth, built trust, and transformed the way that teams work. Hosted by me, Dr. Mickey Fitch-Collins, a facilitator and learning designer at Learnit, this podcast brings you the stories behind successful learning strategies, direct from the people driving them. Learnit is a live learning platform that's helped over 2 million professionals thrive inside some of the world's most respected companies. If you're looking for a partner to help you do the same, our contact info is in the show notes. Welcome to the Learnit Lounge, where learning leads to measurable impact. Feedback isn't critique. It's jet fuel, if you know how to use it. In this solo episode of the Learnit Lounge, we're going to be talking about how do we turn feedback into fuel. And here's the thing, as learning development professionals, we oftentimes say, oh yes, I value feedback. Please provide me feedback. But when it hits our inbox, when people put it in that survey, especially when it's unexpected or it's uncomfortable, it triggers defensiveness. We start second-guessing ourselves, or we have this desire to fix everything at once. Worse yet, we devalue and discredit the sender. The myth is that feedback is a verdict. The truth is that feedback is data. It's information, it's insight, it's opportunity. And when we treat it like fuel instead of friction, it propels us forward. So let's reframe how we approach feedback, both when we give it and when we receive it. Now, we have entire workshops, give and receive feedback for managers and for teams. I love facilitating these because I can see the transformation when we're talking about this. But here's the first and most important thing that I always like to talk about when it comes to feedback. Feedback is a mirror. It's not a mandate. Feedback shows up and shows you a reflection. It's up to you what you choose to do with it. One of the things that I suggest to people all the time is to invite feedback before you need it. Asking for feedback during pilots or during midpoint check-ins, all of these sort of things are really good. Don't just wait until the end to say, hey, I know everything's over with. What did you think about this? Ask for it proactively. Instead of asking questions like, what did you think? Use more strategic questions like, what surprised you? Where did you hesitate? What would you change if this was yours to lead? And then what we do is once we get all of that data, it's time for us to start looking for patterns, not just the outliers. I was talking to one of my teammates not long ago that said, oh yeah, I go and I scroll and I filter everything and look for the scores under X. And then I go ahead and I dig into each one of those. And I said, well, what do you do with the rest of them? Oh, I don't really look at those. What? Look for patterns, not just outliers. You don't want to redesign the way that you do what you do. You don't want to redesign your program based on one comment or two comments. If the same thing shows up 3 or 4 or 5 times, it's probably worth your attention. But it's just as important for us to look at the outliers as it is everything else because all of that stuff is thematic. The other important thing that's really valuable for us to remember is that feedback can be really emotional. Process that feedback. Analyze that feedback and reflect on that feedback. Reacting in the moment rarely serves us well. Build in a pause. My good friend and leader and compadre from other workshops that we've done together, Dr. Joe Hirsch, he's the author of The Feedback Fix. He's been around Learnit. He's a friend of Learnit. He says all the time is to treat feedback as a window into the future, not a judgment about the past. He calls it feed forward, which I think is probably one of the coolest words that's out there. Feed forward. Instead of asking what went wrong, ask what would you do differently next time? Instead of giving feedback to somebody, explore it with them. Feedback becomes a conversation about potential, not about past performance. And to me, this shift makes feedback feel less threatening, and it's much more developmental in nature. People love to have hope about the future, possibility for the future. It is much more likely to inspire action when we're talking about what the things in the future could look like, rather than rehashing a bunch of stuff from the past, even if it's positive stuff. I remember a few years ago when I was setting up a mentoring program in another organization. I was really proud of this program. Good structure. I was really excited about the way that we were going to run things. We had a whole bunch of really good mentors that were going to be part of things. We had a good amount of people signed up for it. And then what happened is we ran the entire program and we didn't actually ask for feedback until the end. That post-experience feedback started coming in. And one comment hit me really, really hard. I can remember it to this day. This felt like a checkbox for me. It never really felt like a conversation between me and my mentor. Now, I could have dismissed that. Most of the scores, most of the feedback from everybody else that were participating in the mentoring program, it was really high. But something about that really stuck. Not only was I looking at the outlier, which is of course important, but I looked at everything else and I reached out to that participant and I said, hey, could I actually grab you for like 10 or 15 minutes? I'll buy you a cup of coffee. Could we dig into this a little bit? And she said, well, and I said, listen, I'm not trying to be defensive about this. I really want to understand this more. And she said, sure. What she said over that cup of coffee shifted everything. She said, it's not that I wanted more content or it's not that I was expecting some big aha sort of thing. I just wanted more space with my mentor. I wanted more opportunity for reflection. I wanted to co-create a little bit. I wanted to not feel like I was just another appointment on his calendar that day, but rather something real and something big had the potential to happen. From that point on, what I did was I redesigned, number one, what I was looking for in the mentors, and number two, what my expectations were of the mentors in their mentoring sessions. And the impact, massively higher levels of engagement, deeper insights, people coming forward proactively sharing feedback with me, saying how great this was. These just streams of stories from the participants saying, this is actually changing things. That one hard comment, that one difficult piece of feedback became the lever that I got to pull for growth. The big takeaway from all of this is to remember that feedback isn't just about you. It's for you and it's for the other person. It's not a judgment, it's a jumpstart. So start small, invite that feedback earlier, ask better questions, create rituals for processing it. Dig into Dr. Joe Hirsch's The Feedback Fix, the I Wish I Knew podcast, all sorts of different fantastic things that he does. Dig into his concept of the feed-forward approach, especially when it comes to those high-trust stakeholders that you have relationships with. Because behind every single great program that you lead, every wonderful career move, every mindset shift, there's always been somebody, for me at least, that has been telling me the truth that I didn't want to hear, but I knew I needed to hear it. If this solo episode resonated with you, please, please, please go ahead and subscribe to the Learnit Lounge. I want you to come back every single Tuesday for a fresh new episode with me, with some of my guests. Connect with me on LinkedIn, send me a message. I want to hear a little bit of those feedback stories from you. What's one piece of feedback that you turned into action, and what did that feedback make possible?